Kenneth, this is Sheila.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. It seems we still have a few people that are joining today. We are very excited for today's meeting, today's speakers that we have. It's definitely going to be a great session. I want to make sure that everyone was able to get the reminder for our upcoming Eat and Be Merry networking event at Patty's. I'm so looking forward to that. So I hope you all were able to RSVP for that. I believe we are very close to being full for that event, but I hope you all are looking forward to that. Up first, we have our review of our minutes from our last meeting, and Cassandra, are you reviewing those this morning?
I can if you need me to, Alan.
Well, I knew that I knew she wasn't going to be on today. I apologize. Just a moment.
No, you're fine.
So last month we had Jim Morris on with us, and he talked about the crisis management for COVID-19. If you all were able to join that session, I know that it was definitely beneficial to talk about some of the legal challenges and everything that have been surrounding our industry during throughout the pandemic, and it was very good. It's always a pleasure to have Jim on to talk about the legal issues and everything that we have to face on a daily basis, but nothing I feel like has been as challenging here lately as issues surrounding the pandemic. And if you're following the OSHA ETS that was released and now sort of held in suspense, and each day it seems like there's a little update around that, but there's definitely quite a bit to say. So last month's meeting, that was the guest speaker that we had, and as a reminder for that, if you need continuing education credit or anything for those things, we do retain all of that, so you can always feel free to reach out to Four Rivers SHRM for that information. And then up next, we have our treasurer's report. And I'm not sure if Melissa is on, but if she's not, then perhaps Mary Ann, do you have that?
Yes, I have it ready to share on my screen.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone. At the balance on hand on September 30th was $16,948. We didn't receive any income through the month, but we had several expenses that were associated with our quarterly in-person meeting and our recognition awards. Those total expenses added up to be $671 that were paid during that month, for an ending balance of $16,276.34. If anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me or Melissa Prigg, our treasurer, our outstanding treasurer. She does a great job with this.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're very thankful. We have a lot of members and then also officers that do such a great job of keeping everything going, especially things behind the scenes like taking care of our finances. So definitely thank you for that. And today we also have a special guest. Bobby Stewart is with us. He is a doctoral graduate student at Murray State University and operations manager for Republic Services. He lives in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He and his wife recently welcomed their third child on October 29th, a baby boy, so named Elijah. Congratulations, Bobby. His dissertation topic is career readiness of recent graduates from the lens of human resource managers and comparing the readiness versus the perceived readiness. So we've included a link to his survey in a couple of our more recent newsletters that you've seen. And we've invited him today to share a little bit more information in order to get some more responses for that survey.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been talking to Mary Ann, and Mary Ann, thank you for inviting me on here. It's a privilege to be on here talking to everyone today. I hope everyone's having a great day and getting ready for the Thanksgiving holiday. I am up in Grand Rapids. I took a job with Republic Services. I'm a Murray resident for most of my life. I got my bachelor's and my master's at Murray State. I love the West Kentucky area, and maybe soon I'll be back in and around that area for work. But for now, we're enjoying Grand Rapids, Michigan, and working through my dissertation. So I am in the data collection stage of my dissertation, which is why I have the survey. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to just kind of talk about that briefly. I've been very fortunate to have had some good connections on LinkedIn, and my survey responses have went up quite a bit, in part to that, and from you guys all taking the time to look at it. I went from approximately, I think 14 when I first started talking to Mary Ann, up to like 22, and then it really kind of spiked. It's taken off, and we're well over 70 responses at this time. So yeah, it's a really big win. I can't really proceed a lot further until I have adequate data for the dissertation, and so I appreciate anybody that's taking the time to take that survey for me. And if you can have any other connections that are HR generalists, managers in that field, I'd be very thankful for that. So I am looking to compare how our newly hired graduates, when they're entering the workforce, how they feel they are ready, and a lot of the critical skills such as critical thinking, teamwork, etc., how their perceived readiness is from actual readiness from folks like you all in the HR field. So ideally, I'd like to identify any type of deficiencies and be able to provide that research so that we can better educate and prepare our next generation leaders. So that's kind of just an introduction and a thank you all for publishing my link in your on the website and helping me out any way that you can. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any questions for me? I'm not really sure how long I was supposed to speak, but I hope that's good enough.
No, you're good. And do you want to run through just briefly exactly which folks you would like to take the survey, what the qualifications are to take it?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So the main requirement really is that they need to be in the HR field, hold an HR position title, it could be an HR, like I said, generalist. We've got HR managers. I've got some connections from previous careers at Walmart. So I've had, and Lowe's so I've had folks that are generalists that are in stores. I've got some regional HR managers for a couple of those companies that have really kind of spread it to their reports and taken it as well. So at any level in the HR field is greatly appreciated.
Excellent. And I think we're working on putting that link. I think Marianne might be working on trying to get that link in the chat too. So for those of you that are on today that have not been able to take the survey, we're going to post that in the chat during the meeting today, and then we'll make it available as well after this, so that if you haven't taken the survey yet, you'll have that opportunity to do so. Thank you very much for your time today, Bobby, with hopping on, and we definitely wish you the very best of luck going through that. I've never done it before, a dissertation, but I can only imagine, and it sounds like something I don't really particularly would like to do. So,
well, I can tell you,
best of luck.
I appreciate that very much. I would be misleading you if I didn't say I didn't question it a time or two myself throughout this process. With the move and the family additions and working through this dissertation, and I've questioned my decision a time or two. But overall, it's been very enjoyable. Again, I appreciate having everyone having me on. Mary Ann did mention that. An opportunity to put together an article for you all once I have the data back and I'm able to put that together and analyze it. So hopefully I'll have that available soon for you all. Again, thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. Thank you. And very best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Up next today is our guest speaker for our meeting today, Jeannie Fisher. So Jeannie is a CFP and CPFA with Strategic Retirement Partners. Over the past decade, she's built a successful practice serving as an investment advisor and financial consultant for families and businesses. Her goal is to simplify advice in an overcomplicated, jargon-filled industry. As an ambassador to the CFP board, she has served as a resource for numerous national publications, including Forbes magazine, Time magazine, USA Today, the New York Times, Lending Tree, Her Money, and 401k Specialist magazine, just to name a few. She's been interviewed by NPR, Asset TV, PBS, WBKO, Doe Roller, Retireaholics, the 401k podcast, on and on and on and on and on. She brings an energy and simplicity to really complicated topics and provides continuing education certification courses like this one for professionals across the nation. She is a two-time presenter at National SHRM with dozens of appearances at state and local chapters like ours. Jeannie's also provided courses for the Medical Group Management Association, Certified Public Accountants, National Association of Plan Advisors, Advisor 2X Excel, among others. Jeannie is recognized by industry leaders and colleagues for the original content published on social media. Topics range from personal finance tips to employer-sponsored plans and practice management advice for finance professionals. Using the hashtags 401k Lady and CFP Pro, you can find her on social media. Her utilization of social media promotes education for clients and helps attract and retain prospects. Jeannie's accessible way of providing virtual advice and engagement is creating a more collaborative platform for financial professionals to support each other and their clients in the digital age. So Jeannie Fisher is here today to speak with us a little bit about benefits, and I'll let you just take it from here.
Thank you, sir. I should have said, Alan, please don't read all of that. Like that.
I left a little out.
I mean, this is like, I have some hometown chapters right around here. I think I know almost everybody on this call. So thank you. While I'm kind of getting teed up, can you allow me to share my screen or make me a co-host? Thank you, sir. Okay, good morning, everybody. I'm so glad there's so many people on here. I thought people didn't work the week of Thanksgiving. So I appreciate that you guys are here. I will warn you, I had a crazy weekend. I got married and you're my first meeting coming back from Gatlinburg. So I'm hyped up on coffee. So hopefully I'm not too energetic today. So just stay
Congratulations.
with me. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'll share. Okay, lovely. The other disclaimer is that this presentation that I'm delivering today was actually created early in the year. So what I want to do is keep it super relevant to where we are today, because, you know, a lot of things change in 11 months. So if you see me slide off on a tangent or skip a slide, it's just because I'm trying to stay relevant to today and didn't really get the slides updated because things are constantly changing. So what we're going to do is jump right in. We're talking about flexing your benefits and what your employees really want. If you are anything like any of my clients, you are struggling right now with recruiting and retention. So that's really how I'm presenting this, from what we're hearing on the front lines from our own HR clients, but also from the employees that we see. Try to give you guys some good tips, tricks, and even just like talking points that you can take back up to the C-suite, right? If you're trying to improve your benefits and make them something your employees truly want. I'm good on the screen share, right? Yeah, okay. We're not going to talk about myself anymore. Alan has done plenty of that. I work with a company called Strategic Retirement Partners, live in Bowling Green. We're dubbed the Nashville office, but that's who we are. And then you may know my colleagues, Brian Peebles and Ray England. Enough about us. So let's talk about where the information from this presentation came from, where it kind of started. I was actually looking at, what are benefits going to look like in 2020? This was, of course, this was end of 2020, going into 2021. How did COVID affect things? And I came across this 2020 vision by the Employee Benefits Research Council. And I thought, gosh, like, they're hitting the nail on the head. Like, they know, they're saying what we're seeing on the front lines. And in this vision, they had basically 4 expectations that they saw, where they saw benefits going. And one of the 4 was empowering individuals to take more direct ownership of their benefits. And that's really what we're seeing, turning a here's our benefit package, it's awesome conversation into you decide what you want and what is awesome for you. Now, the ironic thing about this is, as I was building the presentation and I thought, man, they're really hitting this on the nail on the head. I realized that this research, or this 2020 vision, actually came out in 2014. So it was a prediction, and I'm sitting here thinking, gosh, they're really calling the shots. And so I was even more impressed to see that it was actually a prediction from 5 years ago. So let's talk about this from perception. Okay, so only 37% of employees strongly believe their employer's communication is customized to address their personal situations. Now, I read this stat and I actually empathize with my HR clients, because you're often having to send out one form communication that's often required by the Department of Labor, whoever it may be. And then 2, how can you possibly individualize and customize communication for each individual employee? Many of you guys have hundreds, right? So it's like, okay, cut HR a little bit of slack here, guys. Okay, they're doing the best that they can. Of course, COVID-19 happened, and that shook everything up, shook up what people valued, what they cared about. I think what we're seeing is this tail end, this really tight labor market that I don't think anybody predicted, right? I mean, I think we all thought nobody was anticipating that we were going to have trouble recruiting and retaining. We were thinking we were going to be laying people off. So I find the tail, this whiplash from COVID, very, very interesting. And it almost feeds into the top 10 hacks that I'm going to give you today. It almost makes even more sense, even though it wasn't expected. So we see, like, if you're going to do your takeaway from this presentation, we see flexible benefits being the number one thing. Your employees don't feel like your benefits are customized for you. They're saying that they don't feel like they're being communicated in a way that's customized for them. And really the only way we can do that is to provide a flexible benefits package that lets them choose. And so that's kind of what we're seeing as the big takeaway. This was a study that was done literally right before COVID happened and then immediately following COVID. And it's a Hartford 2020 benefit study. They do them every year. It's just their timing was really interesting because it was right before COVID and then like this summer after COVID hit. And basically you see wave 1 reactions and then you see wave 2 reactions. So you're looking at the change of what they cared about. So for example, I'll highlight the top left, the social and political climate. 11% were stressed about the social and political climate prior to COVID. And then in the summer of 2020, that more than doubled to 25%. Now, there were a fair amount of political stressors at that time too. We had a very contentious presidential election. We also have a fair amount of, we had the whole police brutality, the racial issues all happening during that time. We still see them happening, but there was definitely a spike in 2020. You can also see that there was a spike in caring for family members. Of course, if you're a parent, you know, you're still probably struggling with unpredictable childcare. And then debt became a bigger issue. If you actually look at historical economics, we find that people actually care more about finances, which makes sense, but actually make better financial decisions during times of uncertainty. So think about your grandparents like saving the bread bag after the Great Depression. When our generation has faced first the 08-09 recession and then now what we felt in the COVID times, that uncertainty, we all kind of buckle down and pay more attention to our debt, our spending. We want the financial independence and autonomy. Of course, those were the things, the stressors that changed the most. At the bottom, you see the top 3 stressors to begin with, which is work-life balance and workload and saving money for the future. So those are the top 3 things that are stressing your employees right now. Back to that perception gap, nearly 2/3 of employers believe their company's overall benefits package is better. If I were to ask most of you on this call, you would say, we do think ours is better than our peers, but less than half of your employees feel that way. So we're asking ourselves, why is that? Why do we feel like we're offering such a great benefits package, but employees are constantly reporting that we don't? And it's our belief that that's an education gap. The go-to benefit that I use for this is the ESOP. We have a lot of clients who have an ESOP, and ESOP is an example of a very valuable benefit that can generate a lot of wealth over the long run, but it is a delayed benefit, which means most of your employees today don't see the value, don't recognize the value, and don't understand it. So I would ask you to sit there and ruminate on your own benefits package. Do you feel like it's better than those around you? And do you think your employees feel that way? And if not, why? Where do you think that disconnect is? So what do employees value? Let's start with number 1. Do you guys like working from home? At least part-time? This is the theme, of course. Everybody got a little taste of the flexibility of working from home, and they certainly enjoy it. And this is a trend that we think is just going to continue. If you're ever looking for good research on working from home, you're wanting to take some information to the C-suite, I recommend you look up Global Workplace Analytics. They've been studying remote work for years and years and years. They've been predicting it for years, and they've been a really great resource of information for us as we move forward. But a couple of just interesting stats. 80% of employees want to work from home at least part-time. It's definitely something that people are looking for, that flexibility, that work-life balance. Here's what's interesting. Over 1/3 would take a pay cut to work from home, at least part-time. It was estimated in the beginning in 2020 that 25 to 30% of people by the end of this year would still be working from home. I tried to actually find a stat to see if that was accurate, and I couldn't, but the trend is expected to continue. They're actually expecting by 2030, half of us to be working from home, at least part-time or full-time. Now, here's your fun stat that you take back up to your C-suite. Global Workplace Analytics believes that companies save on average $11,000 a year per employee who works from home. So they estimate that you save $11,000 per employee per year when they work from home. Number 2, online enrollment and digital resources. So 52% of employees expressed an interest for online benefit, education, and enrollment experience. We, of course, are seeing this firsthand because we had to go all online for our benefit enrollment. But now, even though most people would be comfortable with our team coming in, we're still getting primarily requests for a virtual experience. It's easier, it's more streamlined, we can actually do more in a certain amount of time frame, and it's more convenient for everybody involved. So this is some more stats from that Hartford 2020 study. And I'm going to take you to the top right corner because this one to me is the one that really stands out. 43% want the ability to access and enroll in benefits outside of business hours. Again, this is a huge request that we get. We get a lot of, can I meet with you after 5? Primarily because a lot of people want their spouse to be a part of the conversation. And then in the bottom left corner, 42% of respondents want to enroll with a benefits person. So an HR person or a benefits person. Now, many of you, I mean, I don't know what the typical HR to employee ratio is. I've seen companies of 700 people with 2 HRs, right? Like they can't meet with somebody. So we definitely need the benefit advisors on whatever benefit it may be to be there to actually support and help host those meetings with you. This is just an example of the virtual experience that we do. With technology today, your advisors can step in and help you in any way, direct scheduling, it's totally possible. The after hours part is what I find very interesting. For us, it's a bank of video content, but it can be images, it can be articles, it can be whatever it is. Your employees are wanting access to information after hours. And the best way to do that is to record group meetings, record videos, have it there so they can tap into it with their spouse. E-delivery of notices, employees. This is specific to the 401k side, but I think also you're going to find it on your other benefit sides too. We're moving more and more to the e-delivery of notices. It's been pretty much automated on the retirement plan side, and I expect the other sides to go that way soon also. All right, number 3. EAP mental health programs. Now, I often say when delivering this, this is a weaker area of mine. I'm not as familiar with EAP programs, but I thought the trends were interesting. So you can see, of course, the service on the left-hand side. You can see enrollment percentages for 2020 versus 2014. So this is, again, showing you how it changed. It's showing you the trend. If funeral, concierge services, estate planning, and EAP without organizational components have all trended up. Patient advocacy program, beneficiary services, and EAP without organizational components have all trended down. So that just shows you some change in those. I know I'm hearing a lot about them specifically back in 2020, the EAP programs, and just making sure your employees are aware of them and are using them. And I have seen that the best way to do that is to try to use real stories. You know, of course, we have to be sensitive to any issues that may require an employee to access an EAP program, but sometimes an anonymous, compelling story can resonate with employees, and that may be a good place to start when encouraging them to tap into the service. Number 4, dependent care programs. I would just be curious, and you can just like raise your little Zoom hand. Does anybody in here have a dependent care FSA? Dependent care FSA. Okay. I'm slightly biased. Okay. I got some thumbs up. I'm biased as a mother of 2 children who just went through 2 years of unpredictable childcare. But to me, this is like the easiest no-brainer benefit that everybody should be offering. It's not an additional cost to you. It's a voluntary benefit, but it operates like the medical FSA, where the employee can defer a portion of their paycheck into it and then use that account to pay for childcare. What it is it's a big tax break for the parent or the guardian, whoever it is that's providing that. And they actually increased the contribution limits this year. So we're not even done yet. If you're a parent on here and you haven't maximized your benefit, sock away as much money as you can into you get this as a direct tax deduction. You just turn around and pay your daycare provider with it. Again, a really great benefit. It's not one of those that like 100% of your employees are going to use, but those who are paying for daycare, it's going to mean the world to them. Number 5. Student loan repayment programs. I'm known as the 401k lady, and I have talked about these more than anything else in the last few years, or sorry, in the last few months. So right now, less than 10% of employers are offering this program. By the end of next year, it's expected to be 1 in 3. And it's one of those things where it was taking off And then COVID, I think, kind of delayed things. And now with the tight labor market and the whiplash from COVID, we can't stop getting calls about this. Anything people can do to differentiate themselves, they're doing. And Fidelity had a great study on this where 86% of employees said they would commit to a company for 5 years if they offered student loan assistance. 5 years. Think about the retention available there. Here's what's funny about these programs and the wake-up call I always get to have with HR. They're not governed by ERISA. They're not. So you can create your student loan repayment program to look however you want it to look. There's no eligibility and tenure requirements. There's no income limitation, no contribution cap, no discrimination testing. So you could literally look at me and be like, Jeannie, I like you and I'm trying to hire you for this position. How do I get you on my team? And I could be like, hey, pay me this, but put some money on my student loan. And you could literally do that, right? You can write your own policy. You can implement it however you want to. So what that means is flexible for you. You decide how you want this program to help, and then you can design it to do so. Another reason it's really taking off is currently what you're contributing to the employees is not taxable, up to $5,250. So we just implemented one with a local benefits company. We're still in the process, but they're enrolling now to start in January. What they're doing is they're offering a 50% match up to $100. So if I'm an employee and I'm enrolling, I need to at least payroll deduct $200. They're going to throw $100 on it, and then it's sent to my student loan. Now imagine, trying to leave that company. You're going to sit there and think my student loan's paid out of my paycheck. They throw $100 on it. We were able to show all kinds of scenarios about how it would cut 3 years off the life of the loan. It would save thousands of dollars in interest because you're not just giving the employees $100 a month. You're saving them interest because that $100 goes right on principal, right? So such a good program. If anybody in here is in the medical field, I can tell you right now, that's the one. Like medical field, engineers, lawyers, any companies with high paid employees who have student loans, this is where they're going to blow up first. Paying for college. Another opportunity. Now let's go back to the flexible conversation that we're having. So the benefits group that we're enrolling right now, they wanted to be able to recruit and retain, and they wanted to offer something to help employees with student loans. But then they felt like there was a subset of the population that maybe wasn't benefiting, that maybe didn't have student loans. So they're offering the same 50% up to $100, and you can choose if you want it to go to a student loan or a 529 savings plan. And that opened the world up, because if you don't have a student loan, now you can either save in a grandchild's education account, you can save in your own child's education account. The other thing that's super interesting, which I didn't become fully aware of until I started doing enrollments, is with this benefit, the student loan, deductions and those sorts of things, those are only eligible for your personal loans. I enrolled a ton of people who have a spouse with a student loan. So once we layered on the 529, they can contribute to the 529. They get the employer's match in the 529, and you can use the 529 to pay a student loan. So we've literally captured almost the entire employee population and provided some educational benefit. And it's been fantastic. Wellness, financial wellness and emergency savings today. I have said over and over again, our industry's had to take a bite of humble pie. And I think that just benefits in general is having to take a bite of humble pie. For years and years, we've talked about long-term financial independence. We offer a 401k, we offer an ESOP, we offer, stock, we offer all these things, and they're all great, except your employees are far more worried about financial concerns today, right? Like, how can you be concerned about something 30 years from now when you're living to paycheck? How valuable is that ESOP 30 years from now when inflation is 6% today and you're just trying to pay for groceries and your gas bill? So there's been this fundamental shift in all of these long-term benefits on the financial side and making them relevant to today. And so that's the financial wellness, but also the emergency savings. So as we're talking to employers, our, how am I going to say this? Our office-based, maybe a little bit more white collar, maybe a little bit more service-based industries are gravitating towards student loans at 529s. Our blue collar, manufacturing, lower income groups are gravitating towards emergency savings. Does that make sense? Like they're kind of finding the more immediate need, and there's two subsets in the population. So a little bit about emergency savings. You guys paycheck to paycheck, like period, end of story. It's shocking how I can't remember the exact statistic. It's super high. Most people couldn't cover a $400 expense. That's a new set of tires. That's not even a washing machine. Okay. So we need to build up that emergency savings bucket. One of the things we're trying to do is soften the leakage in the retirement plan. Now, a lot of people in my industry would go on and on about how bad a loan is and the leakage from the retirement, and we need that benefit there for the long term. And I'm going to turn that conversation on its head and say, 401ks are great. I love them, clearly, but they're not serving the immediate financial need, which is what we need to address, right? Like it's not the employee's fault that they're, well, maybe in some instances they're taking bad loans or they're taking hardships. It's what can we do to actually help them, right? Instead of just demonizing it. So I'm going to skip that slide, and I'm going to skip that slide, and I'm going to skip that slide. And I'm going to talk a bit more about our emergency savings. So this is updates, right? This is me going off script. So there's a couple of ways that our employers are addressing emergency savings issues. First off, there is new legislation being introduced every day that would actually allow for an emergency savings bucket inside the 401k. Okay, so there would be basically what's called an after-tax bucket that would build up to $1,000 or $2,000, and your employees would be able to take that money, get tax-free and penalty-free for an emergency. This way, we're not creating all of the drama. We're capping it. We're keeping it very low. It truly is for an emergency, but we're just softening the rules of the long-term retirement plan. So that's one way. Another way is, I skipped through the slides, but that same flex match program, same idea, except instead of using the existing retirement plan to help create that emergency bucket or add to it, you can actually create an emergency program where you payroll deduct the automatic savings, you toss that match on it if you want to, and you put it straight into a bank account for them. Now, I get mixed reactions from, employers. Some like it and some don't. Some don't like the idea that, you're truly putting money straight into the employee's bank account and they can do whatever they want with it, right? Because once you put it in their bank account, it's there. But some understand that the incentive of a match may be exactly what that employee needs to start their own automatic savings and build up that savings account. So we can use the same prior example. Okay, we'll match 50% up to $100. We will literally put $100 into your savings account every month, but you have to put $200 in. Right. And we'll lifetime cap it or max it or whatever you want to do, but not governed by ERISA, total flexibility there. You can actually layer all three of those options on where you're saying, this is our match. You're going to get an extra $100 a month. You got to do 200. You decide. Student loan, 529, emergency savings, right? Talk about putting the ultimate power in the employee's hands. And I say this quite a bit. You only have so many benefit dollars to go around, right? It's either going to go to the retirement plan or one of these other ancillary benefits. The way for you to maximize the ROI, the return on investment of a single benefit dollar, is to let the employee decide where it adds the most value. I may find $1 to a student loan not exciting at all because I don't have a student loan, but I may find $1 to my retirement plan or to a 529 hugely beneficial. So we're constantly pushing our HR departments to kind of to think outside Nanny ERISA, right? Think outside that box that you're stuck in. Think outside of health insurance and say, how do we truly take, if we're going to offer a dollar for dollar match on our 401k, how do we take that match and make it the most valuable dollar we can to each individual employee? And the way you do that is by letting them choose, letting them tell you. All right, tax flexibility. Just a couple of comments on this one. If you've heard us, we hammer home Roth. But there is another easy add-on to your retirement plan, and that's an after-tax contribution. It's not particularly relevant to everybody. If you want to have the emergency account currently, until some legislation passes, built into your retirement plan, you do need this after-tax option. But it all speaks to all of these benefits have tax pros and cons. You either take the deduction today or you wait. You either get the tax deferred growth or you get the tax-free growth, whatever it is. But allowing employees to choose how they want these benefits taxed, which to a certain degree you can, and then educating them on those is hugely important, because again, you're putting the ball in their court. You decide what's best for you. Number 9, a smoother transition to retirement. In my research for this presentation, I thought this is like the most obvious thing I've ever seen, but I'm not seeing it a whole lot in the real world. I've seen it, I'm starting to see it some with personal clients, but this is just, to me, this is like something I would, if I was HR, I'd build this in immediately. So in Europe and in everywhere else in the world, basically, almost everybody goes part-time before they retire. Like that's the norm. It is very abnormal in the rest of the world for somebody to be like, I'm 62, have their retirement cake and cut out. And I find it so interesting that that's the norm here in the US. Employees want the phase out generally, from what I've seen. And it's better for the employer too, because you have that smoother transition of, you have a seasoned employee there when you need them. You have a seasoned employee there to support and train the next generation, but they're also stepping out some days, so the next generation has time to kind of learn on their own. And so it all back to that flexibility theme. Instead of it being all or none, giving your employees the option to do, we call it phased retirement, go to part-time for a little bit before they fully retire, to me is just a win-win for everybody. And I would say most employees don't think of this as an option. Does that, like, they just think, oh, I'm going to retire. Most probably don't. So if it is an option in your organization, or it's something you think you can build in, we got to educate them on the fact that we can make this a more flexible transition into retirement. So this is where I'm going to start adding in some new stuff again. So a big theme that you'll be hearing in the future is the pensionization of your 401k. So you guys remember old school pensions, right? Like you retire and you get a check every month, kind of like Social Security. And they phased out because they had a lot of weaknesses. But one of the really nice things about them is somebody would work for 40 years and get a paycheck and then retire and still get a paycheck. They still had that regular guaranteed monthly income. If you look at how old the 401k is, the 401k is about 45 years old right now, which means we're now here. We've been here long enough. We've learned how to get people to save. We've learned how to help people invest. We have all of these automatic features, but now we have a huge subset of the population that has more money in a single account than they've probably ever had. And they have no idea how to manage it. They have no idea how to actually turn it into a monthly paycheck, which is ultimately what we all need. That's the scariest part of retirement. We talk to people about this all the time, and they're like, I don't like, how do I get paid? And I explain, well, we link your bank account and we automatically deposit, do you want paychecks every 2 weeks or once a month? I mean, but they truly don't know what to do. So we are now having all sorts of legislation roll out about building in, we call it guaranteed income for life inside the retirement plan. It would be almost like another option. Now, there's some old school annuities that you may already have built into your plan, but they're pretty rare and pretty expensive. This would be built into where your employee would pick it almost like they would an investment option, and they didn't have to wait until the end. But let's say somebody retires and they have $200,000 in their account, and it's like they really don't know what to do with it and they don't have an advisor. They would get the option. They would say, you can take this 200 and it would equal $10,000 of guaranteed income a year for the rest of your life. And then they can set it and forget it. I'm not saying it's the best option for everybody, but I do believe every plan should have this in the next 5 years. Like, I think that this is a no-brainer. And the Department of Labor and everybody is currently passing the legislation that you, HR, and your committees need to properly evaluate the annuity options. I'll make one other comment on this. I just did a video about it a couple weeks ago. Because there's this emphasis on getting people to understand not just I have 100,000 in my 401k, but what it translates to in monthly income. The Department of Labor is now requiring all of your record keepers, so anybody who has a retirement plan, to start listing on the participant statement what the monthly income is actually projected to be. So some are rolling it out this December, some are rolling it out Q1 of next year, and some are rolling it out Q2. It just depends on who your provider is. The problem is to come up with this calculation that is required by everybody in the United States. The Department of Labor went ultra conservative, like irrationally conservative. So they're going to look at everybody's 401k balance, and they're going to assume you're 67 years old. They're going to assume you only earn treasury rates, which is currently 1.8%. And they're going to assume you start your payments right away. So none of that's realistic. But what that means is your 30-year-olds are going to get a statement now from their 401k. And if they only have $50,000 in the account, it's going to show, I'm trying to remember, I did all the math on this. Let's say they have $10,000 in the account. It's less than 25 bucks a month. It's less than 25 bucks a month because it assumes your 30-year-old employee is 67 and earning 1.8%. It ignores all the time for the account to grow. It ignores all of the potential investment growth. It ignores all of the future contributions. So my concern, and what we're really going to be educating our clients on next spring and their employees on, is don't get like de-incentivized when you get this statement. We don't want our 25, 30, 40-year-olds to see that they're saving $25 a paycheck to get $25 a month, right? Like that is so, it's just so unrealistic. So this is going to be a huge topic of conversation, I believe, once these disclosures are now put on the statements. We need to educate your employees and not let them get bummed out about it and say, this isn't realistic. You know, if you keep saving, it's going to be this. And we also need to come up with realistic guaranteed income for life options inside their retirement plan that overcome these Department of Labor requirements. I went off on a tangent there, but it's a big talking point now. So I want to make sure you guys hear it. Okay. All right. So those were the top 10 hacks. I'm going to open up the floor for questions and observations and comments. Certainly here for any conversation.
Thank you very much, Jeannie. One of the questions I had, I believe you answered it, was when you were discussing the student loan repayments, and for employees that may not have student loans, but their spouses do. And, you know, so as a family unit, you know, we're paying on that together. Then you mentioned that was something that may not, the amount that you mentioned that annually was not taxable. That's just for that employee, and that wouldn't be something that an employer could contribute to on behalf for that spouse, right?
Right. So here's how we there's a loophole. We figured it out. So if that's of a concern, or you want to make sure to benefit, if you want to offer a student loan benefit and you truly want it to be beneficial for the most people, you want to layer on the 529. Because what you can do is then you can contribute to the 529, name the spouse as the beneficiary, and then pay the student loan from the 529, or make, you know, regular payments. There is a lifetime cap. You can only use about $10,000 of a 529 towards a student loan. In the example I provided, that particular employer basically put $100 a month for 5 years, lifetime cap of $6,000. So I knew we were going to be, you know, lower or beneath, you know, we educated them on all of that. But I used to just say, do student loan. And in the last month, I've really kind of said, man, you layer on that 529 and now you're really helping everybody out.
Thank you.
any other questions or comments or anything that wasn't in the top 10 list that you guys think, man, she missed a big one. This is going to be a big one. I slayed it. Got them all.
Yes, yes. I will say Jeannie and her team at Strategic Retirement Partners have done a great job. They have, I did learn about this team through the Four Rivers SHRM, just another reason why the connections of this chapter are so vital. We learned of Jeannie and her team through a previous session that they did for us. And, at the bank, we partnered with them. We already have our ESOP, and we partnered with them this year to build and design our 401k. And so they have just put a bow on that, and we are going live in January. So they have done a tremendous job. So I definitely recommend them if you have any questions regarding, regarding your benefits, regarding your retirement benefits for your team. They are definitely a wealth of knowledge for that.
Thank you, Alan. You didn't have to say that, but I appreciate it.
You owe me money. I'm just kidding. No, I mean it. So if there's no other questions or anything for Jeannie, and if you do have questions that you weren't able to ask, or you'd like more of a one-on-one, to be able to ask that one-on-one, their email is right here on the slide deck. And then we will, whenever we send out our next newsletter, we'll make sure to have their contact information and everything in there for you to feel free to reach out if you do have any other questions. We do definitely thank you, Jeannie, so much for your time today, speaking on these very important topics of our benefits that we have to offer our team. And so now that concludes the majority of our meeting today. Are there any announcements or anything that we need to make? And does anybody have any special announcements or anything? Crickets.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving. For those of you that are here, it looks like we're at a normal participation today so I guess everyone is working this week. That's good. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but and then I did mention earlier we do have our upcoming Christmas time networking event in Patty's, and so you have received that information in our newsletter. Hope to see many of you there. If there are no other announcements to make, then that concludes today's meeting. Thank you all so much for your attendance today. Wish you a very happy Thanksgiving to you and your families.
Thank you.
Thank you.